Did you know Giant's founder only started riding bikes in his 70s? They might have made your Schwinn, or your Trek, or your Colnago, and they mass-produced the first carbon road bike. It was called the CADE, which is now a sub-brand of Giant. You've probably spotted CADE wheels on the Jayco Alula team bikes in the Tour de France. Giant is the biggest bicycle brand in the world, with an annual revenue of over $2.5 billion US, and making over 6.6 million bikes a year. It was founded in 1972 by a chap called King Liu, along with 6 partners in Taiwan, and is still run by the Liu family today. In the early years, they were pretty much just OEM, making bikes for the already well-known American brand Schwinn, and around 75% of Giant's business was making Schwinns. It wasn't until 1981 when Giant started making their own branded bikes. A clever move, as the higher-end bike market was really starting to expand. Schwinn didn't like this, to say the least. By the mid-80s, Giant had evolved into a fully blown competitor. They were marketing their own bikes in the States, and even calling Schwinn dealers and offering similar models at lower prices. Naughty. By the 90s, Schwinn announced they would sever all ties with Giant and started producing bikes in China, in a different factory. But at this point, Giant was on a roll and selling quite a few more bikes than them. Problem is, this new Schwinn factory couldn't keep up with their demand, so they had to go crawling back to Giant for manufacturing. And eventually went bust in 1992. Like I said in the intro, in 1987 they released the first carbon mass-produced bike, the CADE 980C. I haven't been able to find out, but I'd love to know the thought process behind the name 980C. I'm guessing C stands for carbon, and 1980 is 980. But honestly, why is it not just called the One? Carbon One. Anyway, before the 980C, carbon bikes were usually handmade, super premium, built to order, fancy customers only. It was comparatively affordable. Light, stiff, everything you'd want. And frankly, it looked pretty cool too. It wasn't full carbon, it had some aluminium lugs, and CADE had my surname in it, so it gets my vote. I'm going on eBay now. A few years on, in the late 90s, Giant were the first to take road bikes which all pretty much looked the same, 2 big triangles, and made this, the TCR, the first compact geometry road frame, with a drastically sloping top tube and smaller rear triangle, which they claimed increased rigidity, improved handling, and reduced weight. It was made for the Spanish team Once Pro Cycling, and while people were skeptical at first, the team did really well, and we now see this kind of design everywhere. Giant still make a TCR, which stands for Total Compact Road. Some people love a traditional big triangle bike though, and thankfully there's still lots on offer. Let us know your preference in the comments down below. There is even more to the Giant TCR than this. You might recognize this bike. It's a Lotus 108 Pursuit bike, so used in a velodrome, and it was designed by a British guy called Mike Burrows, and used by Chris Boardman and other GB athletes. The Giant TCR was also designed by Mike Burrows. He's got a decent track record, hasn't he? No pun intended. Because of this compact geometry, they only made the TCR in 3 sizes: small, medium, and large. With Giant saying that the low standover height of the compact frame meant it would suit more riders of different heights, and you could just adjust seat post height and use one of their 3 options of stem lengths to get your fit right. This meant Giant could reduce the cost of the manufacturing and the development of different frame sizes, which was clearly the real reason they liked it. Thankfully, they make more sizes now, but not small enough, as we've discussed, and that's a topic for another video. I'm a broken record, aren't I? Now, back to Mr. King Liu. I said he founded the company in 1972, and only started cycling 40 years later. He was a mechanical engineer, an entrepreneur, and by his own admission, not much of a cyclist. In 2007, at age 73, Liu had a change of heart. He biked 927 kilometers around the entire island of Taiwan in 15 days. Just 2 years later, in 2009, at the age of 75, he rode 1,600 kilometers from Beijing to Shanghai. He eventually retired as a chairman of Giant in 2016, but stayed on as a cycling ambassador and has campaigned for better cycling infrastructure and worked on public bike sharing initiatives in Taiwan. Lovely stuff. But it all hasn't been plain sailing for Giant. Flying Fish Bikes was an independent bike shop in Tampa, Florida. They were a long-time Giant dealer and sold a lot of Giant bikes, maintaining a close working relationship with the brand. In 2013, Giant told Flying Fish to gear up for a big order. They encouraged them to invest heavily in new inventory, promising continued partnership and support. Flying Fish trusted them. Why wouldn't they? They stocked up on bikes. Behind the scenes, Giant was already planning to open up a shop a few streets away, a direct competitor. Naturally, Flying Fish were pretty pissed off, so they took them to court, claiming that Giant misled them into ordering over $120,000 worth of new bikes, withheld information about the plans for a corporate-owned store in the same market, and terminating their dealership agreement shortly after Flying Fish made the big purchase. Apparently in legal terms, that's fraudulent inducement and breach of fair dealing. Giant defended themselves, saying Flying Fish had also breached their contracts. They had the right to alter the dealer relationships and open their own stores, and this was a business decision, not a personal attack. But the jury sided with the shop. They were awarded $250,000 in compensatory damages and $3 million in punitive damages. A huge victory for the independent business. Word obviously spread about the case. The National Bicycle Dealers Association, NBDA for short, called it a wake-up call. Loads of small shops were already disgruntled at how brand-dealer relationships had become lopsided, especially with the rise of brand-owned stores, which we see huge numbers of today. The NBDA put out statements saying, "This case highlights how dealer agreements are often written to overwhelmingly favour the suppliers. We need better balance and more transparency." After what seemed like a great result for Flying Fish, Giant did try to appeal, but thankfully Giant's motion for a new trial was denied. And Giant's request for a remittitor was also denied. I had to look up the word remittitor. I can barely say it, honestly. Remittitor. It's American, isn't it? So it's like remittitor. It's basically when a court goes back and reduces the jury's excessive damage award. Flying Fish had so much stock they couldn't shift. Eventually, they closed down in 2020 anyway. They auctioned off all the stock, and sadly, Flying Fish Bikes is no more. And the last fact of today. Giant have a reputation for being boring. But not necessarily in a bad way, and I'm not sure they deserve it. You hear people comparing them to Toyota. A bit beige? They have no soul? These are real quotes from people online. Does a TCR look as flashy as an S-Works SL8? No, I guess not. It might not turn heads. But this Revolt is pretty cool. And, well, back in my day, they did the Trinity, which was the coolest TT bike you could get. And the fastest for a long time too. And the Tour de France bike they've currently got, the Propel, look at the paint job on this. That is anything but boring. I think they get an unfair rap. And have you seen this paint job, the blue Propel? That blue shouldn't work, but it does. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed that. See you on the next one.